Driving through Accra, it is not unusual to find vehicles emitting excessive exhaust fumes that often create inconvenience for other motorists. But beyond the inconvenience, it poses a health risk to commuters and motorists. The World Health Organization estimates that about 2,000 people die annually in the Greater Accra region alone because of air pollution, with emissions from vehicles being a major contributor. Rapid urbanization and population growth in the capital city has compounded the problem because more than 70% of the city's inhabitants commute via motor vehicles and worse, spend several hours each week in traffic.
In fact, the smoke is an environmental hazard. And so when the smoke gets into you, you start with coughing, and then at times when you're addicted to certain diseases, it can bring catarrh and all that. There should be a law so that those cars that have that problem should stop moving in the city.
Because that's how homia ema yare nti yasa ban say onhwe na omunyi san crofoni for no musese omo car ni ye because esa da bia ya homi koyemu
how my say bia wonam traffic man say car bi betimi abetwem atun wisie bebre homi ko umu a how bebre akomi musa na ema me bowa.
Benson Owusu Etuahene, a public health advocate and researcher, says the situation accounts for many premature deaths in the country.
The long-term effect with the carbon monoxide is that it can lead you to developing asthma. It can trigger asthmatic attack. Benzene has been proven to contain a lot of carcinogens. Carcinogens are cancer-causing agents. And then also another harmful effect of this benzene is that it has a bad effect on your bone marrow. And that can lead you to developing leukemia, which is cancer of the blood in the long term.
Ghana has new proposed limits for vehicle emissions, beyond which vehicles will be considered in breach. The Road Traffic Regulations of 2012, LI 2180, also warns against the use of motor vehicles that emit exhaust fumes in quantities that could be hazardous or annoying to road users or pedestrians. But this has been difficult to enforce because it is subjective and cannot be scientifically measured.
A standard that was incorporated in these regulations, which was made in 2012, is that an owner or a person in charge of a motor vehicle shall take precautions to ensure that the motor vehicle does not discharge combustion products, steam, lubricating oil, or other substances on the road. That is how far our policy went. As to the level of discharge of combustion products, steam, lubricating oil, and other substances on the road, we were not told. And therefore, it allows itself for discretion. It is not scientific. And that is why we are happy that this deficiency prior to the enactment of the Act and the LI has been cited.
The Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLA, which is responsible for inspecting and issuing licenses for motor vehicles in the country, currently issues smoky vehicles with roadworthiness certificates if they meet other benchmarks for the issuance of the certificates.
Recently, when we licensed private sector operators to engage in the testing of vehicles before we issue them the roadworthy certificates. So that is a key step in that regard. One of the things in that area is to ensure that you don't just sit and use human eye to say that I think this vehicle is roadworthy. No, the vehicle has to go through a certain computerized system of test and examination, including testing its emission level to ensure that it is not beyond the legal limit. What we currently do now is purely advisory. So if the vehicle is examined and its emissions level are beyond what the guidelines prescribe, we can only advise the owner to go and get it resolved.
At one of the DVLA licensed vehicle testing facilities at Awoshi in Accra, Operators confirm that emission tests conducted as part of the mini-test for roadworthiness certificate is done for the purpose of advising vehicle owners should they fail that test.
The standard that we are supposed to use has not been given to us by DVLA, our bosses, so we are waiting for them. But as the operations, when the car comes around, we normally use the visual aspect. A car might come here, you can see it yourself when the driver accelerates. Sometimes the smoke comes out very dark, and with that we advise. Normally we don't give roadworthy to such cars. We advise that the driver go and fix that problem because of the pollution that he or she is giving to the public. So we advise that the user of the car go and fix it, come back, then we give the roadworthy sticker.
Between 2005 and 2016, more than 1 million vehicles were imported into the country. Data from the Ghana Revenue Authority indicates that 80% of the imported vehicles were second-hand vehicles with obsolete technology whose emissions are non-compliant to the manufacturer's standards.
We have 15 monitoring stations in Accra, and out of the 15, we have 9 to 10 of them currently working along the roadside. So we measure roadside air pollution, and the levels are higher than even the residential, industrial, and commercial areas. So it means that aside the road dust, we also have the black carbon also coming from the vehicles. We tend to alleviate the levels of pollutants that come from the vehicles. So vehicles are major, I do call it, source of pollution. When you look at some facilities along major highways, you could see that the building become black. When you get to toll booths, you see that the buildings or the kiosks become black. What is this? Black carbon. And they are coming from emissions from vehicles, and these are inhaled into the system. And when these things are into the system, you know that it can cause a lot of health hazards. We came out with standards that were published last year in 2018, which is going to be used by the DVLA or any third party that's accredited by the agency to do that. So that's what we are doing. As regulators, we have to come up with the standards and regulations to be able to do that. So the regulatory aspect is ongoing. We're developing the regulatory aspects, and very soon we'll have the regulations to back the standards.
Superintendent Alexander Obeng of the MTTD says his outfit is prepared to strictly enforce the law when the legislation is passed and the police is equipped with the required emission testing tool.
The best practice is that you publish the standards, you incorporate it in the law, and you go for equipment that will be used to test, and the same equipment that you use to gather evidence that the person has not complied with the standards set for the person knowledge. Because we are ready, but provided it is portable.
The World Health Organization considers Ghana's air pollution situation as critical and suggests that urgent measures be undertaken to save some 30,000 lives in the Greater Accra region alone, and $500 million for the country each year due to the effect of air pollution. So it is evident that having smoky vehicles on the road do not only leave pedestrians, other motorists and hawkers inconvenience, but also leaves them with dire health consequences. But until such a time that the DVLA and the other relevant stakeholders come up with the standards and enforce them, these people would have to live with the inconvenience. For City News, Jonas Nyabo.